Hey YouTube, Brian LCS. Welcome to the Amazing Spider-Man number 44 review. This is the conclusion of the gang war storyline, finally. I am glad it's over. But let's jump in. We pick up where we left off from last issue, where there's been this big battle in Central Park between the competing villain sides here. Madame Masque was running one of the sides, and Beetle, Tombstone's daughter, was running the other. And so it's kind of where we pick up. This continued action, this big fight, this big brawl that's going on, and um, we you know we see this going on in Tombstone. Tombstone has been kind of a central player, and he's actually been a central player throughout this run, Zebwell's run. He was on early on, and now he's been really a big character that's Zebwell seems to be using. And so at this point, Tombstone and his group of people, he basically asked them to pull back. And so here is the story. Like I said, Zeb Wells writing, John Romita Jr. on art, Scott Hanna inker, and the colorist is Mauricio Menez. And I probably butchered those names, but there you go. And see, we see this updated gang war map. Madame Masque has a big chunk of the city, and we have Beetle with a little bit, and then we have a little chunk, well, a couple chunks for the Spidey team, the Spidey-led team. And so we see this. Tombstone has now left the battle in his group of bad guys, and now Madame Masque's team is now focused on the heroes that are here. Miles Morales, we've got Daredevil, we've got She-Hulk and Spider-Man, and they really focus their sights on Spider-Man, and he basically starting to get a beatdown. Not something that Spidey is unfamiliar with, and so we see some of the different characters kind of taking turns at Spidey, and we see some of the other heroes, Daredevil, She-Hulk, Miles, starting to get overwhelmed because now the Madame Masque-led team is really just focused on them and not, dividing their sights on Tombstone since his team has kind of left. But we see some reinforcements come in. We see Luke Cage, we see Spider-Boy and Mary Jane Jackpot come in. And again, we see Spider-Man is just getting pummeled. And he, we see some, I got to fight, I've got no choice, I got to push. His drive throughout this gang war series has really been just to protect, try to protect New York City. And then obviously his best friend, Randy Robinson, was hurt and in the hospital. And now we see this from the shadows. We see Shotgun basically taking out some of the other villains' mind control. So Madame Masque has had this little mind control, and we saw it in an earlier issue with Shotgun. He was under mind control by her, and that's why he put a hit on Tombstone. And so we see now Shotgun, kind of teaming up with Tombstone or taking his side and takes out these little mind control devices. And so that was kind of a little bit of a wrinkle. And now, we see Silvermane and, they're basically saying, oh, what are we doing here? What's going on? So, the fight continues and we see Madame Masque now setting her sights on Spidey. And there's a little bit of back and forth, but like I said, Spidey's main motivation here has been to protect New York City. And we see now the heroes are starting to get the upper hand with, the reinforcements that have come in, Luke Cage and Spider-Boy and Jackpot. And now Madame Masque, we see that she's finally, down, defeated. Rabble, who is one of Miles Morales' new baddies, heads out of town. She had provided some of the tech that Madame Masque team was using, but she heads out, and that's basically how the battle ends here. We see um, Madame Masque being defeated, Tombstone hightailing it out of here, and we see Shang-Chi and Iron Fist come in. They have been part of the storyline in some of the other books. Um, and so what we find out, the big revelation here, is that the anti-superhero laws have been overturned. It was something that Wilson Fisk, as the mayor of New York City, had put in place, the Kingpin had put in place, and we find out that that has been overturned now. And so there's no need to kind of police the heroes. And then we see Peter Parker back with Randy in the hospital. And Randy wakes up, and Peter is excited and explains to him everything that has gone on, the change in the laws which Randy was fighting for, and the fact that the gang war, the big war is over. And we see he's super excited. And he asked Randy, when he wakes up here, he's asking about Janice Beetle, who he was going to marry, happens to be Tombstone's daughter. And so Peter lets him know he doesn't know, and that's one of the threads in the storyline that was something we just don't know. We saw last issue where Tombstone knocked her out and ripped up her costume, and we really don't know what happened to her. And then we see White Rabbit and Tombstone having a conversation, about all of the events that went on. We basically, White Rabbit is reminding Tombstone that, he teamed up with Spider-Man, and that's not going to fare well with the other, gang leaders and mobsters in New York City. And she's just, how are you going to handle this? What are you going to do about this? And Tombstone says here, I'm going to beat him to death with my bare hands, loud and in broad daylight where everybody can see. No one's going to remember anything after that. Come on, we've got a city to run. And so now, like I said, Tombstone has been this player. He actually provided a pretty brutal beatdown of Spider-Man in the first couple issues of this run. And we've had this, Peter's best friend, Randy, marrying Janice, Tombstone's daughter. And so there's a lot of Tombstone storyline that's been weaved throughout Zeb Wells' run here. So the gang war is concluded, but this is obviously not the end with Tombstone. And we see a final gang war map, and now Tombstone is in control of all of New York City. So interesting to see where this will go in the future. And let's see, they don't even really preview. They don't even really preview the next issue of ASM here. So, gang war. It started out strong. I thought it started out really well, and then really kind of fizzled for me. Spider-Man really just kind of seemed like a secondary player in this storyline. Like I said, his motivation was really just to protect New York City, and I understand that. He is, he's one of New York City's, Queens, New York City's heroes, champions, right? He obviously will do what's right, but I don't know. It started out strong and really fizzled for me personally. And we'll see. We'll see what happens now going forward with Tombstone. What's going on with, where's Beetle? What's the outcome of that? And how will this now, the revoking of the laws that Kingpin put in place as the mayor, how will that play out in the future? We'll see. So overall, this issue 44, 5 webhead review system, we're going to go with a 2 again. 2 webheads. This has just been okay. It feels like a little bit of a cash grab trying to sell a bunch of books tying into this. If you can see in the back of the book, there is a long laundry list of titles. This spanned almost 5 months. No, it started in November, December, January, February, and there was one final book in this month in March. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to see where we go next. I don't have confidence in Zeb Wells' writing. John Romita Jr.'s art is just not doing it for me. But we still have Ultimate Spider-Man, which has been a good read. So be on the lookout for those reviews, and we'll be back here with Amazing Spider-Man 45. So let me know down in the comments what you thought of the whole gang war storyline. Did you read it? Did you pick up any of the crossovers? What did you think? What do you think of Zeb Wells' run here? We're 44 issues. Next issue, 45 issues in, and it's been it hasn't been good. There's been a couple little bright spots, but it's been blah, right? That's the word of the day, blah. But that's what I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next issue, next review. Drop me a comment. Appreciate you watching.